I grew up just outside a small town in Alabama, the kind of place where nothing ever really changed. Same roads, same people, same routines. By the time I turned 17, I knew every stretch of highway and every back road like I knew my own house. Not just during the day, but at night too. Especially at night, because that's when those roads felt different. During the day, they were just dusty strips of asphalt cutting through fields and trees, but after sunset, when the sky turned black and the only light came from your headlights, those same roads felt longer, quieter, like they didn't belong to you anymore. Most nights I'd take my dad's old car out just to drive. No destination, no reason, just the sound of the engine, the hum of the tires, and miles of empty road stretching ahead of me. It was freedom. At least, that's what it felt like back then. There were certain routes everyone in town used, the main highway that connected us to the next county, a few side roads cutting through farmland, and then there were the back roads, the ones people didn't use unless they had to. Narrow, unlit, surrounded by something but trees and open land. Those were my favorite. I'd drive for miles without seeing another car, just darkness ahead and the sticky beam of headlights lighting the way. Sometimes I'd roll the window down and let the cool night air rush in, carrying the faint smell of earth and distant fields. It was peaceful, predictable, safe. At least it used to be. I remembered the first time something felt off. It wasn't dramatic, no screams, no sudden movement, just a moment. I was driving alone, maybe a little past midnight, heading down a long stretch of road that cut through open land with patches of trees on either side. The kind of road where you could see straight ahead for what felt like forever. No street lights, no houses, just darkness. My headlights carved a narrow tunnel through the night as the engine hummed steadily beneath me, and then, for just a second, something crossed the road ahead. Fast, too fast. It didn't run across like a deer, it didn't move like a dog. It was just there one moment and gone the next, a white blur. That's all I saw. I slowed the car slightly, instinctively checking the sides of the road. My headlights swept across the trees, catching nothing but empty trunks and still branches. No movement, no sound, nothing. I remember letting out a small breath and shaking my head. Probably just my eyes playing tricks on me. That's what I told myself, because out on those roads at night, your mind can do strange things. Shadows shift, lights bend. Your brain fills in gaps that aren't really there. I pressed the gas again and kept driving. Didn't think much of it, didn't tell anyone, because in a place like that, seeing something strange for a split second isn't enough to turn it into a story. Not yet. But over the next few nights, I started noticing something else. Every time I drove that same stretch of road, I find myself watching a little more closely, looking a little harder into the darkness beyond the headlights, waiting. Not because I expected to see anything, but because something about that one moment, that quick flash of white, didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like something real, and I didn't know it yet, but that was the first time I had seen the White Thang. I just didn't understand it at the time, not until it came back, and the next time, it didn't just disappear so quickly. I told myself I wasn't going back to that road, not because I was scared, at least, that's what I kept thinking, but because it didn't make sense to chase something I probably imagined. A flash of white in the dark could be anything, headlights reflecting off something, a piece of cloth caught in the wind, an animal moving too fast to recognize. That's how I explained it. That's how I tried to forget it. But the problem with roads like the ones out there in Alabama is that they have a way of pulling you back. A few nights later, I found myself driving again. Same car, same time, same empty stretch of highway cutting through the fields and trees like a long, black scar. I didn't plan it, didn't even realize it until I was already there. The road looked exactly the same, dark, still, endless. My headlights stretched forward, lighting up the pavement in that narrow yellow beam. Everything beyond it faded into blackness. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel just a little, not enough to admit I was uneasy, just enough to feel in control. Nothing's out here, I muttered to myself. The engine hummed, the tires rolled steady, and for a while, nothing happened, just like before. The kind of silence that makes you start to believe you were wrong the first time. I let out a small breath and eased back in my seat. Maybe it really had been nothing. Maybe. Then it happened again, but this time it didn't cross the road. It kept moving. Something white appeared at the far edge of my headlights, just barely touching the beam. At first, I looked like a streak, like light sliding across the darkness. Then it stayed, kept pace, running along the side of the road. My eyes locked onto it instantly. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't something blowing in the wind. It was moving with me, fast, too fast. I pressed the gas slightly, not even realizing I was doing it. The engine responded, the speed climbed, but the thing beside the road didn't fall behind. It stayed there, matching me, gliding along the darkness just outside the reach of my headlights. My heart started to pound. "What is it?" I whispered. For a second, I thought it might be a person, but no one runs like that. No one moves that smoothly, that fast, without making a sound. The white shape flickered closer in the beam for just a moment, and I saw it, not clearly, not fully, but enough. It wasn't shaped right, too narrow, too smooth, almost like a body stretched in motion, limbs blending into the blur of speed. Then suddenly, it surged forward, not gradually, not naturally. One moment it was beside me, the next it was ahead, cutting across the road again. This time I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched slightly as the car slowed hard, my headlights jerking forward with the motion. The road ahead was empty, completely empty. Not white shape, no movement, no sign that anything had been there at all. I sat there, frozen, my hand still gripping the steering wheel. My heart was beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. I looked to the left, nothing. To the right, nothing. Just fields and trees and darkness stretching out forever, but I knew what I had seen. This wasn't like the first time. This wasn't a quick mistake. It had stayed, it had moved with me, and it had crossed the road again. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Then, slowly, I pressed the gas again and drove forward. Not fast, not slow, just enough to keep moving, because stopping out there suddenly didn't feel like an option anymore. As I drove the rest of the way home through the quiet roads of Alabama, one thought kept repeating in my mind. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't just passing through. It knew the road, and now it knew me too. I didn't tell anyone the next morning, not my parents, not my friends, because saying it out loud would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. But the image stayed with me, that white shape keeping pace with the car, moving like it didn't belong to anything human or animal. I kept replaying it in my head, trying to slow it down, trying to make sense of it. And every time I did, it felt worse, because the more I thought about it, the clearer one thing became. It hadn't been random. It had matched my speed, stayed just out of the light, like it knew exactly where to be. A couple of days later, I was at a small gas station just outside town, the kind where everyone ends up eventually. Old pumps, flickering lights, same handful of people every evening. I was leaning against the car, pretending everything was normal, when I overheard two older men talking near the counter. "Telling you it was white," one of them said, like it caught the headlights and just took off. I froze, didn't turn around, didn't move. The other man let out a low chuckle. "You mean like that thing folks used to talk about?" The first man didn't laugh. "I am serious," he said. "It ran alongside my truck. I pushed 80. Thing didn't even fall back." My chest tightened. Slowly, I turned my head just enough to glance at them. They weren't joking. No smiles, no exaggeration, just quiet, serious conversation. The second man shook his head. "Ain't been hearing that in years." "What do they call it again?" the first one asked. There was a short pause. Then the answer came. "The White Thang." The name hit me harder than I expected because the moment I heard it, something shifted. This wasn't just something I saw. Other people knew about it, had seen it, had named it. I didn't say anything to them, didn't ask questions. I just paid for the gas and left. But the silence in the car on the drive back felt heavier than usual. Every shadow looked sharper, every stretch of empty road felt longer. That night I couldn't shake it anymore, so I brought it up, carefully. We were sitting outside, a few of us, just talking like we always did. I kept it casual. "You ever hear of something called the White Thang?" I asked. At first, no one said anything. Then one of my friends looked up at me. "You mean that thing people say runs on the roads?" he said. Another one laughed nervously. "My uncle swears he saw it years ago." "What is it?" I asked, trying to sound uninterested. He shrugged. "No one knows. Some say it's an animal, some say it's something else." "Something else how?" He didn't answer right away. He just shook his head slightly. "Just don't drive those back roads too late," he said. That should have been enough. That should have been the moment I decided to stay away. But instead, I did the opposite. Because now I knew I wasn't imagining things. Now I knew there was something out there, something fast, something white, something that didn't behave like anything normal. And the worst part, the thought that kept creeping it in wasn't fear, it was curiosity. I wanted to see it again, not just a flash, not just a blur. I wanted to understand what I had seen. So a few nights later, I went back to that same stretch of road in Alabama, but this time I wasn't just driving, I was waiting. I didn't end up on that road by accident this time. Every turn I took, every mile I drove, it was all deliberate. I told myself I just wanted proof, something clear, something I could point to and say, "This is real." But deep down, I knew that wasn't the whole truth. There was something else pulling me back, something I didn't fully understand. It was later than usual when I got there, past midnight, the kind of hour where even the few cars that still moved through Alabama disappeared completely. The road was empty, not just quite empty. No distant headlights, no sound of engines miles away, just darkness stretching in every direction. This time, I didn't keep driving. I slowed the car, then pulled over to the side of the road. The engine idled for a moment before I turned it off, and just like that, everything went silent. It's strange how loud silence can feel when you're alone like that. No engine, no tires, no movement, just the faint whisper of wind moving through distant trees. I sat there for a while, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead into the darkness where my headlights had been, waiting. At first, nothing happened. Minutes passed, maybe more than I realized. The kind of waiting where your mind starts to wander, trying to convince you that you're wasting your time. That's it. I muttered under my breath, "There's nothing out here." I reached for the key, and I heard it. A sound so faint I almost missed it. Something shifting, not on the road, but off to the side. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up as I turned my head slowly toward the darkness beyond the passenger window. At first I couldn't see anything, just black. endless black. Then something moved, not fast like before, not a blur, slow, controlled. A pale shape separated itself from the darkness. At first, it didn't even look real, just a patch of white where there shouldn't be any. But then it shifted again, and I realized it was standing there, not far from the edge of the road, half hidden between the trees, watching. I couldn't see its face, not clearly, but I could feel it. That unmistakable sensation of being watched, of something focusing entirely on you. My breath slowed, not because I was calm, but because I was trying not to make a sound, trying not to let it know I had seen it. It didn't move closer, didn't run, didn't disappear. It just stood there, still, unnaturally still. And then something hit me, hard. A realization that made my chest tighten. This wasn't like before. It wasn't passing by. It wasn't just crossing the road. It had been there already, before I arrived, waiting. The thought sent a chill through me that I couldn't shake, because that meant this wasn't just something that moved through the roads at night. This was something that stayed, something that knew this place. Slowly, without taking my eyes off it, I reached for the keys again. My hands was steady, too steady, like my body had gone into something automatic. The engine turned over. The sudden sound broke the silence like a gunshot, and in that instant, the white shape moved, not away, not deeper into the trees, toward the road. Fast, too fast to follow. One moment it was standing still, the next it was already at the edge of the pavement. I didn't wait to see more. I slammed the car into gear and hit the gas. The tires spun slightly as the car lurched forward, headlights snapping on and cutting through the darkness again. I didn't look back, didn't check the mirrors, didn't slow down. But even as I sped down that empty road, I could feel it. That same presence, that same impossible movement. Somewhere just outside the reach of the light, running alongside me again. And this time I knew for sure the White Thang wasn't just something you happened to see. It was something that decided when to show itself, and that night it had been waiting for me. I didn't slow down for miles. The road twisted through the countryside, cutting between fields and scattered trees, but I kept the gas pressed harder than I normally would. 80, maybe more. I wasn't looking at the speedometer anymore. I was listening, waiting, trying to hear if anything was still out there. For a while, the only sound was the engine pushing harder than usual, the tires humming against the pavement, the wind pressing against the windows. I started to believe I had finally left it behind. Maybe the engine noise had scared it off. Maybe whatever I saw by the trees had just stayed there. Then something moved in the corner of my vision, a flicker, white, low to the ground, running. My stomach dropped because it wasn't behind me. It was beside me again, not in the headlights, not fully visible, just at the edge of the beam where the darkness begins swallowing the light, but it was there, moving, perfectly in sync with the car. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Come on," I whispered under my breath. The car pushed faster, but the thing beside the road didn't fall back. If anything, it moved smoother, like speed didn't matter to it. I forced myself to glance sideways for just a second. And that was the moment I saw more than I ever had before. Not a blur, not just a white streak, something shaped, something real. Its body was pale, almost glowing against the darkness, not the color of fur exactly, more like smooth skin reflecting the headlights in a dull, ghostly way. It ran on four limbs, but the proportions were wrong. The front legs looked longer than the back, and the way its body stretched with every stride felt unnatural, like it covered too much ground with each movement. My heart was hammering now. That's not a deer. It wasn't a dog either. Too big, too smooth, too fast. For a few seconds we moved together down that empty road in Alabama, car and creature, metal and something living, running side by side through the darkness. Then it did something I still can't explain. It turned its head, just slightly, just enough that I saw the shape of its face, and the moment our eyes met, it surged forward, not gradually, not like an animal gaining speed. It exploded into motion. 1 second beside the car, the next it was already ahead of me. Then it cut across the road again, exactly like before, a pale flash crossing the headlights, a shape moving faster than anything I had ever seen, and then gone, vanished into the darkness on the other side. I hit the brakes instinctively. The car slowed hard as my headlights stretched across the empty pavement ahead. Nothing there, no movement, no white shape disappearing into the trees, just the same silent road. I sat there again, breathing hard, trying to understand what had just happened, because one thing was becoming very clear. This wasn't random. It wasn't just crossing roads or wandering through the woods. It was pacing me, testing me, running beside the car like it wanted me to see it. And the part that kept echoing in my mind as I finally drove home that night was something one of those men at the gas station had said. I pushed 80. Thing didn't even fall back. Now I understand why, because whatever the White Thang really is, speed means nothing to it. And if it decides to run beside you, there's no outrunning it. I didn't drive that road for a few days after that, not because I had decided to stop, but because something in me needed time to process what I had seen, what I had felt. It wasn't just fear anymore. Fear is simple. You're something, you see something, you get scared, you avoid it. This wasn't that. This felt like something unfinished. I couldn't stop thinking about the way it moved beside the car, the way it kept pace, the way it turned its head, like it knew I was there, like it wanted me to know it was there. That wasn't random, that wasn't instinct, that was awareness. And that thought stayed with me longer than anything else, because if it was aware, then it wasn't just reacting, it was choosing. A few nights later, I went out again, not to the exact same spot this time, but close enough that I knew I was still within the same stretch of backroads in Alabama. The road felt different now, not physically. It looked the same, empty, quiet, wrapped in darkness, but I wasn't the same. Before, I had been driving through it. Now, I was driving into it. Every shadow felt like it had depth. Every tree line looked like it was hiding something just beyond sight. I found myself checking the mirrors more often, glancing to the sides even when nothing was there, waiting. But nothing happened, not at first. I drove for miles, slow this time, not pushing the speed, not trying to outrun anything, because I wasn't sure anymore if speed mattered. I turned onto a narrow road, one I hadn't taken before, less pavement, more cracks, the kind of road people stop using after a while. That's when the feeling came back, not a sound, not movement, just that sensation, like something had entered the space around me, like I wasn't alone anymore. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I didn't speed up, didn't slow down, just kept going. And then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The trees on one side of the road were shifting, not violently, not like something crashing through them, but subtly, like something was moving with me, keeping pace again. I didn't turn my head right away, didn't want to confirm it, didn't want to see it too soon. But the movement stayed there, consistent, matching the car. Finally, I looked. At first, I saw nothing, just darkness lit between tree trunks, then a flash, white, deeper in this time, further from the road, but still there, still moving. It wasn't running right beside the car anymore, it was staying inside the tree line, parallel, watching. My heartbeat slowed in a strange way, not calming down, but focusing, like my body had stopped reacting and started observing. It wasn't showing itself the same way now, not crossing the road, not stepping into the headlights. It was staying just out of sight, and that's when the realization hit me. Before, it had come close, run beside me, crossed in front of me. Now, it was holding back, like it didn't need to prove anything anymore, like it already knew I would come back. A cold feeling settled in my chest, because that meant something I hadn't wanted to admit before. This wasn't just me finding it, the White Thang had already figured me out. It knew my route, knew my speed, knew how I reacted, and now it was changing the way it showed itself. Not to be seen, but to be felt. I kept driving, didn't stop, didn't chase it, because something in me understood now. If I pushed this further, if I tried to get closer, I wouldn't be the one in control anymore. I told myself I was done after that night. No more backroads, no more waiting, no more trying to understand something that clearly didn't want to be understood. For a couple of days, I actually believed it. Life went back to normal, school, same routines, same people. I even managed to convince myself that whatever I had seen out there on those roads in Alabama, it was over. That it had stayed out there, but something didn't feel right. It started small, the kind of things you don't notice at first, like how my dog wouldn't go near the edge of her yard anymore. He used to run straight out into the dark, chasing anything that moved. Now, he'd stop at the same spot every night, same place, same line in the dirt, ears low, body tense, watching. At first I thought maybe there was another animal out there, a coyote or something passing through. That would have made sense, but this didn't feel like that, because he wasn't reacting to movement, he was reacting to presence. One night I stepped outside with him just to see. The air felt still, too still, like the kind of silence that presses in on you. He walked a few steps ahead, then stopped, right at the same invisible line, couldn't go any further. I followed, slowly. "Come on," I said quietly. He didn't move, didn't even look at me, just stared out into the darkness beyond the yard. And then I felt it, that same sensation, the one from the road, like something was there, not moving, not making a sound, but present, watching. I didn't see anything, no white shape, no movement between trees, nothing I could point to, but the feeling was unmistakable, and that's when something shifted in my mind, because up until that moment, everything had happened out there, on the road, in the distance, somewhere I had to go to experience it, but now that feeling had followed me home. I took a slow step forward, and the moment my foot crossed that invisible line, my dog let out a low growl I had never heard from him before, not loud, not aggressive. Warning. I stopped. Didn't move any further. The growl faded, but he didn't relax, didn't take his eyes off the darkness. Neither did I. We stood there like that for a long moment, both of us staring into something we couldn't see. Then I stepped back, and the moment I did, the feeling eased, not gone, but weaker. Like whatever was out there had pulled back. That night I didn't sleep much, not because I was scared, but because something finally made sense. All those nights on the road, all those times it ran beside me, stayed just out of reach. It hadn't just been random encounters. It had been building something, familiarity. And now, the White Thang didn't need the road anymore because it knew where I lived. And I knew one thing for sure as I stared at the ceiling that night. I should have left it alone, because whatever connection I had created wasn't one I could just walk away from. After that night, I stopped going outside after dark. No more standing in the yard, no more late drives, no more pretending I was in control of any of this. If I wanted distance, I was given it distance. But distance didn't matter anymore because the feeling didn't stay outside. It started inside the house. At first, it was subtle, the kind of thing you can explain away if you try hard enough. A faint sound in the hallway where no one was there, a shift in the air when all the windows were closed, that strange, quiet pressure like someone standing just outside a room. I told myself it was nothing, just my mind, just leftover tension from those nights on the road in Alabama. But then it got harder to ignore. One night I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house was completely still, no TV, no footsteps, no voices. Then I heard it, a soft sound, not loud enough to wake anyone else, but clear enough that I knew I hadn't imagined it. Something brushed against the outside wall of my room, slow, deliberate, like something moving along the side of the house. I sat up immediately, heart pounding, every part of me telling me not to move, not to make a sound. It came again, a faint scrape, not claws, not something dragging, more like something passing by. I turned my head slowly toward the window. The curtains were drawn, blocking the view completely, but the moment I looked at them, that feeling hit me again, strong, stronger than it had ever been before. It wasn't just nearby, it was right there, just on the other side of that window. I didn't move, didn't get up, didn't even breathe properly because something deep inside me already knew if I opened that curtain, I wouldn't be guessing anymore. I would see it. And for some reason, that felt like a line I couldn't cross. The sound stopped completely, but the feeling didn't. It stayed, heavy, focused, like whatever was out there hadn't left, like it was waiting for me to move, waiting for me to look. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. I lost track of time. Eventually, the pressure eased, not gone, but less intense. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have, because when I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight filled the room. Everything looked normal, too normal. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head until I looked at the window. The curtain had shifted slightly to one side, just enough to expose a narrow strip of glass. And on that glass there were marks, faint, long, not scratches, more like something had pressed against it and dragged slowly across the surface. From one side to the other, I stared at those marks for a long time, trying to make sense of them, trying to find a normal explanation, but the truth sat there, clear as anything. Whatever had been outside that window hadn't just passed by, it had stopped, and it had been right there, close enough to touch the glass, close enough to know exactly where I was. That night, something changed again, because now I understood something I hadn't wanted to admit before. The White Thang wasn't just following me anymore. It wasn't just watching from a distance. It was coming closer. And next time, I didn't think there would be a window between us. After that night, I stopped questioning it, stopped trying to explain it away, because once something leaves marks on your window, there's no pretending anymore. I started noticing patterns, not random things, not imagination, patterns. It never made noise during the day, not once. No matter how quiet the house was, no matter how long I stayed alone. But the moment night settled over everything, that feeling came back. Not always strong, sometimes just a faint pressure in the back of my mind, like something reminding me, I'm still here. I tried ignoring it, stayed in my room, kept the lights on longer than usual, put on noise just to fill the silence, but none of that really helped, because the feeling didn't come from sound, it didn't come from shadows, it came from direction, always from outside, always from the same side of the house, the yard. One night I decided to test something. I turned off all the lights in my room, sat in complete darkness and waited. At first, Nothing happened, just silence. Then slowly, that pressure built again, stronger, more focused, like something had noticed the change. My eyes adjusted to the dark. The window became a faint outline in front of me, the curtain barely visible, and then I heard it. A soft step, not on wood, not inside the house, on dirt, right outside. One step, then another, slow, measured, moving across the yard. My throat tightened. Every instinct told me to stay still, stay quiet, don't react. But something else, something I didn't understand, started pushing against that fear. Curiosity. Not normal curiosity, not the kind where you just want to know something. This felt heavier, like a pull, like whatever was out there wanted me to come closer. I stood up before I even realized I had moved, slowly, quietly. Each step toward the door felt wrong, like I wasn't fully in control of it. The sound outside stopped completely, like it knew I was moving. I reached the door. My hand hovered over the handle, and for a second everything went completely still. No sound, no movement, no pressure, just silence. Then it came back, stronger than before, not from the yard anymore, from right outside the door. My hand froze, because there was no way it could have crossed the dead distance that fast. No footsteps, no sound of movement. It was just there, waiting. And in that moment, the pull got stronger, not forceful, not violent, just inviting. Like opening that door was the most natural thing in the world, like it was supposed to happen. My fingers tightened slightly on the handle, and that's when something broke through. Not a sound, not a voice, a thought. Clear, simple. Open it. I stepped back immediately, hard, like waking up from something I didn't realize I was in. The pressure snapped, gone, just like that. I stood there, breathing hard, staring at the door, and for the first time since all of this started, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt certainty, because now I understood what this was. All the nights on the road, all the times it ran beside me, all the moments it stayed just out of reach, none of that had been random. It had been leading to this, bringing me closer again and again, until I was right there, one door away from doing exactly what it wanted. I didn't open it that night, but as I stood there in the dark, one thing stayed clear in my mind. The White Thang wasn't just watching anymore, it was trying to get inside. And worse than that, it almost convinced me to let it. I couldn't sleep that night, not because I was scared, well, maybe a little, but because my mind kept replaying that pull. The one outside my door, the one that felt deliberate. By morning, the marks on the window were still there, faint now, but unmistakable, not scratches, not accidental. They weren't fading because whatever made them wanted me to remember. I told myself I wasn't going to go back, not outside, not on the road, not anywhere near it. But the pull didn't care, it didn't stop. It followed me everywhere. School was no escape. Friends didn't understand why I kept glancing out windows, why I avoided certain streets on the way home, why I kept my headlights on longer than necessary on the way to the gas station. No one could see it. No one else could feel it, because it wasn't meant for them. One night, a week later, I made a mistake, a small one. I opened the back door to let the dog out. He ran immediately to the edge of the yard, stopped, ears flat, body tense, watching, and then I saw it. Not fully, not yet, but the white flash moved behind the trees, almost floating, closer than it had ever been. I froze, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then it stepped forward, one motion, slow, deliberate. The edge of its body caught the moonlight for a second, and I saw its shape. Tall, narrow, limbs stretching unnaturally, skin pale, almost reflective. It wasn't running now. It was walking toward the yard. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door, to run, to hide, but something inside me, curiosity, stubbornness, whatever it was, kept me frozen. It came closer, closer than I thought it could move without sound, closer than I was comfortable with. Then it stopped, just beyond the edge of the yard, watching me, and that's when I realized this wasn't just about crossing roads anymore. It wasn't about fleeting glimpses or blurs of white in the dark. It had crossed its own threshold, and now it wanted me to cross mine. I didn't, not yet, but the thought lingered in my mind long after it vanished into the darkness. The White Thang wasn't just a legend anymore, it was real, and it had chosen me. The next few nights were impossible to ignore. No more subtle feelings, no more faint pressures. It was everywhere. Not in a loud, obvious way, but in ways you can't dismiss. I started noticing small things, the dog refusing to go past certain spots in the yard, lights flickering in the hallway when no one touched the switches, a cold draft that only appeared near certain windows, near elsewhere, never elsewhere. It was as if the White Thang had mapped everything, my house, my yard, my routes. I tried to explain it logically. Maybe it was just wind, maybe the dog was reacting to raccoons, but every explanation felt hollow. One night, I stayed up, daring myself to watch. The living room window was cracked just slightly. I waited. Minutes passed, and I felt it, that unmistakable pressure again. I couldn't see anything at first. Then, just a silver of white appeared between the trees outside. It didn't move, just stood there, waiting, watching, and I realized something worse than fear. It wasn't afraid of me, it wasn't cautious, it was patient, patient enough to make me think it had been studying me all along. Then I noticed something else, a series of marks on the grass leading from the tree line closer to the house. Not deep, not violent, just impressions, small, deliberate, measured steps. It had come closer than I ever thought possible, and I understood fully then. It wasn't just curious, it was testing boundaries, testing me. And if I didn't respect the boundaries it set, there would be consequences. From that night on, I knew one thing. It wasn't in charge anymore. I was. And the White Thang had made that very, very clear. After that night, nothing was the same. I couldn't drive on the back roads. I couldn't wander outside after dark. I couldn't ignore the feeling that waited just beyond the window or along the edge of the yard. The White Thang had made one thing clear. It was real, it was powerful, and it knew me. At first, I tried to live normally, go to school, talk to friends, play video games, but no matter what I did, that pull never stopped. It lingered, constant, waiting. I started noticing subtle signs everywhere, shadows in the trees that moved too smoothly, white flashes in peripheral vision that disappeared when I turned my head, the dog's refusal to enter certain rooms. It wasn't just outside anymore, it was around me, invisible, yet tangible. Some nights, I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking maybe I could ignore it, but I couldn't, because the White Thang had taught me one thing. It didn't need to show itself fully to be real. Its presence alone was enough. And slowly I realized another terrifying truth. It had changed me too. I was more alert, more careful, always aware, always listening. I no longer left doors unlocked or windows open. I never walked outside alone after dark. I never went to the back roads again. The fear had shifted into respect, a cautious coexistence. I didn't know its intentions. I didn't know its origins. I didn't even know if it was friendly or hostile. But I knew one thing. The White Thang was here. It had chosen me. And in a strange, unsettling way I had chosen it too. Every night I felt it near, watching, waiting, patient. A reminder that some creatures are not meant to be chased, captured, or understood fully. Some are just meant to exist alongside you, silently, impossibly, and forever. And as I drifted off to sleep each night, one thought always lingered. I was living with a legend, a predator, a mystery, a presence that would never leave. The White Thang had entered my world, and there was no going back.